If you bought a house here in Austin in 2021 or 2022, I need you to put your phone down for the next 10 minutes and actually listen, because I guarantee you've done this. You have opened Zillow, you have looked at that testament, and you have gone quiet for a second or two. Sick to your stomach quiet. By the way, I'm Amber Haley. I am your realtor in Austin. I am your tech and real estate expert. I am your future realtor whenever you are ready to sell that place. Anyway, I talk to peak buyers more than almost anyone else I know, and it's always the same four questions, right? Do I sell? Do I wait? Do I rent it out? Do I just sit here and hope the market fixes itself? And if you waived your inspection or you had 15 minutes to decide on a house because 67 other people were bidding on it too, you are not imagining what happened. That was real. That market was crazy. And what's happening after is very real too. Okay, so let's actually look at the numbers, because I think most people are either avoiding it. Trust me, I know. I sold my house this year. I understand. You're either avoiding it or you're catastrophizing it. Catastrophizing? Catastrophize. Yeah, okay. You're catastrophizing it, and neither one, it really helps you. Austin Metro median sold price peaked at $550,000 in 2022. And as of this spring, it is sitting around $440,000. Now that's roughly a 20% drop. Some data sets put it closer to 24%. Okay, that depends on how you're measuring it, but let's just say 20-ish and call it a day. That is real. That is not nothing. Okay, if you need to sell right now and you need to sell fast, that number can genuinely hurt. All right, I understand. Here's the thing that nobody says out loud. That number is a metro-wide average, okay? And Austin is not one market. It never was. It never has been. It just felt like one market because in 2022, literally everything was moving all at once, okay? A 2022 new build out in some far suburb with 15 competing new construction listings down the street is not the same animal as a renovated house in central Austin, okay? A condo is not a house. A 2.75% mortgage is not a 6.5% mortgage. And this is the part I actually think matters the most. School zones held value in a way that almost nothing else did. Eanes ISD, Westlake, that whole corridor, those homes basically acted like a price floor throughout this whole correction because that demand never really went away. Meanwhile, the places that got hit the hardest were the ones that were mostly investor and builder driven back in 2022. So tons of identical new construction. They are all competing with each other. They are all competing all at once. So step one, and I mean this, stop treating your Zillow estimate or whatever they call it, and stop treating the Austin median as if they're the same thing, as if they are what your actual house is worth, because they are not. They never were going to be, okay? So here's the question I actually want you asking instead of when does Austin get back to 2022 for pricing? Because that is not the right question. That's you waiting for a headline to save you, and no headlines are going to save you. The right question is, what problem are you actually trying to solve? Because I bought at the peak is not itself a problem. It's just a fact. The problem, if there is one, is something underneath it all. Okay, do you need to move right now for a job? Did you outgrow the space? Is the payment just too tight now that your taxes and insurance have gone up? Because they did. Everyone's did. Or, and be honest with yourself here, are you just anxious because you see a lower number on your estimate than what you paid for it, and that feels really bad? Because those are different situations and they need completely different answers. So let's actually go through them. Now, your first scenario, honestly, the best one is you like your house a lot and you can afford your house and you're not going anywhere for at least 5 more years. And if that's you, I need you to hear this. You probably don't have a real estate emergency. You have a psychological one, and that is okay because nobody likes feeling like they overpaid. I get it. You don't need to win with stocks every single year, okay? You don't need to win with your house every year. If your rate's fixed, and honestly, this is a big part of why so few people are selling right now, because if you're locked in at 2.75%, 3%, you are functionally handcuffed to that house in a good way, because moving means trading that rate for something more than double it. And that math almost never works unless you truly have to move. Your housing cost is actually more predictable than almost anyone renting right now. You have time. And time is the one thing a forced seller doesn't have. So if you are not forced to sell your house, don't act like you are. Second scenario, this is the harder one. You actually need to sell. Your company's relocating you, or you had another kid and you've run out of space. You're getting divorced. I'm sorry about that. Whatever it is, or congratulations. I don't know. I can't sell until I get my money back. I hear that constantly. And I get why people say it, but your purchase price is honestly not the number that matters here. What matters is what you'd actually net if you sold today. And that's not complicated math, okay? It's just a sales price minus what you still owe, minus the cost to sell, minus whatever concessions or repairs it takes to actually compete in this market. Now, let me run you through a real example so this doesn't feel so abstract. Say you bought at 700,000. You put 15% down, so maybe you financed 595. 4 years later, you owe maybe 555 after paying down the principal on your mortgage. House sells today for 620. Now, that's already below what you paid, but let's be real about it. Your selling cost, your commission, your title, all of it, call that 6%. So about 37 off the top. Now that leaves you around $28,000 in net proceeds, plus whatever you normally get back at closing. Is that the number you dreamed about in 2022? No. But is it a real usable number that tells you something? Yes. That is the whole exercise here. Okay, that number might not feel great, but it's a real number, and a real number beats sitting on a house for 18 more months because you're emotionally married to a price from 2022 that does not exist anymore. It just doesn't exist. And can we talk about the breaking even for a second? Because I do think telling yourself that it's a trap. It's a trap. People mean that they want to sell for exactly what they paid. But if you paid $700,000 and you lived there for 4 years, and you also had a place to live in for 4 years, and you paid down the principal, and maybe you even refinanced, maybe you avoided 4 years of rent increases. Okay, that's not nothing either. And one more thing is, if you've owned and lived in the house for at least 2 of the last 5 years, most of any gain you do have is protected from capital gains tax anyway. Up to 250 as a single filer, 500 if you're married. So even in a down market, that part of the math is usually on your side. It's usually not working against you. I'm not saying ignore a loss if there is one. I'm saying your purchase price by itself is a bad tool for making decisions and comparing your actual options. So I'm not saying ignore a loss if there is one, but I am saying your purchase price by itself is just kind of a bad decision for making this decision. Compare your actual options, not just a number from your memory. Now, your third scenario, and this is the classic Austin move, I'll just rent it out. Sometimes that's smart. Sometimes it's just a very expensive way of refusing to accept that the market has changed. Now, don't turn your house into a rental just because you're attached to the price. Turn it into a rental if it actually works as a rental. And I mean the real numbers, okay? Not the rent that you are hoping for, the rent that you will actually get in this market. What's your all-in cost after the mortgage, taxes, insurance, HOA, maintenance, and let's be real, a vacancy of a month or 2 or 3 or more, because that can happen. Can you cover a big repair without it becoming a credit card problem? Are you actually willing to be a landlord or pay someone else to deal with a 2 a.m. pipe call? Austin is sitting at something like 5.5 months of inventory right now. That is homes averaging 82 to 85 days on market. And that's a real shift from 2022 when things sold in a weekend. So run this with today's numbers, not what you assumed back then, back in 2021, 22, because if it's negative every single month with no real path to that changing, that's not an investment anymore. That is just hope with a mortgage attached. The fourth scenario now is that the payment itself is an actual issue for you. Okay, maybe your income has changed. It happens. Maybe the taxes and insurance jump hit you a lot harder than you expected. Maybe you bought assuming appreciation would bail you out fast and it just didn't. And if that's you, don't be embarrassed, okay? And don't let the embarrassment make this decision for you. I mean, the goal was never to prove you can white knuckle it forever. The goal is protecting your actual financial life. Sometimes the right move is reducing your housing cost, even if it means admitting that 2022 didn't play out the way that we pictured. And that's not failure. That's just a decision based on where things are actually instead of where your pride wants them to be. So here's what I'd actually do this week if any of this is you. Get a real pricing opinion off recent sold comps, not an automated estimate, any of that. Not what your neighbor thinks their house is worth, okay? Get a net sheet. Run at a few different price points, conservative, realistic, and the good scenario. And if renting's even on the table, get a real rental analysis with actual comparable leases, not a number you made up. Decide what your real-time horizon is. Decide if that's a year, 3 years, 5 years, more, because that changes everything. And you got to separate the emotion from the math. Trust me, I've been in your situation wherever you're at in this. If you're annoyed that you bought 6 months too early and didn't wait 6 months, that's a real feeling, okay? If you're selling in the market you don't want to sell, that's a real feeling. I'm not telling you to not have your feelings, okay? I'm telling you that it can't be the thing making your decision right now. So if you bought at the peak in Austin, Texas, you are not automatically stuck. You might be genuinely fine. You might need a real exit plan. You might need a hold. You might need to rent. You might need to sell and move forward and move on with your life. But you won't know which one it is until you stop waiting for the market to save you and start asking what is actually the right call for your life right now. And I can help you with that. I'm Amber Haley, remember, your future realtor in Austin. So if you want an honest property-specific breakdown, sell versus rent versus hold, no pressure. I got a form for you below. I will run all the real numbers for you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I post new videos every single week, and I can't wait to see you in Austin.